Hey, my beautiful bitches, it's me, Fiona St. James, and welcome to another episode of Fiona's Coffee Talks. And as always, I like to start off every day with a fresh, hot, black cup of coffee. Hold the cream! I'd love to. And of course, I think of my favorite quote of the century by Oscar Wilde, which says, life is too important to be taken seriously. So lighten up, folks, as today's topic is, drumroll please, 2024 year in review. Okay, so the last couple of years, because I've been doing like these different, each year, 3 different 8-part series. Uh, why I love doing this video at the end of the year is because like I never really get to speak about what's happened to me personally through the year because I'm focused on the topic at hand. So 2024 was actually quite the year, so I got a lot to cover. First off, I was performing again, like, not drag, but an actual show. So Nora Burns, hey Nora, Candid Camera Live. Candid Camera was the show that she had on public access, like back in the early 90s, which I was actually on one of the episodes in drag as Fiona, was interviewed by Lou Maletta, Uncle Lou. Uncle Lou, I miss you. And then I did a performance, but that was part of her show. So she contacted me beginning of the year, and she's like, Fiona, you dance, right? And I was like, girl, I'm going to be 60. But yeah, I mean, it's been like 30 years. So when she first asked me, like our opening night was February 1st at La Mama, and she contacted me January 18th. And in a matter of like 1 second, I felt every emotion you can think of. The very first one, the most prominent one, was fear. Because I'm like, girl, I haven't like danced like that, like an actual dance part in probably like over 30 years, or about 30 years anyway. And so, I'm thinking, oh, I'm old, I'm not in the shape that I was in my 20s. And can I remember the choreography, like all of that? But before I knew it, in a matter of a second, I heard myself say yes. And I was like, wait, did someone just throw my voice? But it was the best decision I ever made because it enabled me to face my fear. It reminded me that, yes, I still have it in terms of being able to learn choreography and execute the movements. And it's a fun, fun show. I mean, we did it at La Mama for 1 week in February, and then we did it at Red Eye on on 41st and 9th. And then we just did it a couple of months ago at the Gene Franco Theater. And it's such a great show. And it's the kind of show that we could like do it anywhere. So I'm hoping that we continue doing it because I absolutely love it. And, that show took place during a time in the early 90s where doesn't even that time was such a wonderful time for me. And I don't think New York City will ever get back to that. Actually, I know it won't. But, even when you look at the audience, it's like anyone who was anyone during those days that's still alive, because, unfortunately not everyone is, would be in the audience. It would be this wonderful who's who. So even performing it and seeing the faces of people that you've known for 30 years, and everyone in the show I've known for that long. So was just magical for me. And I would say she was my good luck charm because I did that and then all these other wonderful things happened. So fast forward, it was opening night. And that afternoon, I'm in the shower getting ready for the show and I missed the phone call. And then when I heard it, I was like, oh my God. So I'm not going to say where I live, but I no longer live in Sunnyside. I'm now in a luxury high-rise building, artist building in Hell's Kitchen, in the heart of Hell's Kitchen. You all could probably figure out where it is. So, and when they contacted me and said, oh, your number's coming up, I was like, wait, who, what, Grim Reaper? And they were like, no, no. And then they said, identified the building. I was like, oh, and I'd forgotten that I had been on the waiting list for like 11 years. And they kept telling me like, we don't have anything yet, but your number's coming up. So let's get you ready. And I had just renewed my lease in my old apartment. And I'd been in that building 28 years. But thankfully I had a good relationship with my old landlord. And so all of that happened. Oh, send us this, send us that. And they kept saying, but we don't have anything. And then towards the end of February, come in, let's finish the application. I did that. And then all of a sudden he's like, I have something to show you. And I was And they showed me this apartment that I currently live in. I'm on the 25th floor. I have a balcony with a view of life. I've done videos where like it's been in the background, and if people ask me, I will tell them, but I've didn't have yet to make any official proclamation. I did when I got back from Europe in September. I did a little video on my balcony and said, guys, this is where I live now. But this is like the first time that I'm actually saying out loud and telling the world, I live in Hell's Kitchen and I am so fortunate and blessed. And like I said, I'd forgotten that I was on the waiting list. But obviously, knock on wood, my karma was good enough that the universe provided for me, because I'm gonna keep it real. Like, as much as I love my old apartment, I was on the top floor of a walk up. And in the back of my mind, I was already thinking, I'm only 60, I'm going to reach a point where I won't be able to deal with the stairs. So I already had like put the feelers out there, and I was actively like going on New York City Housing Connect and trying to find like an 80-20 and doing applying for all of these different lotteries. Had completely forgotten about this situation, because I had signed up for the waiting list like 12 years ago. So when they contacted me, I was happy that I hadn't thought of it, because I think I would have probably been like, oh my God, when are they going to call me? And so when the phone call came, and my subsequently moving here came as a total surprise, and I was very, very happy. Then they always say I would say everything happens in three. So got Nora's show, I got this beautiful apartment that I'm happy as shit. And prior to that, a year ago, November, I did this video, shot a YouTube video for this huge YouTuber, Matt Cullen. Hey, Matt. And he like interviews all forms of like different sex workers. And you all know, I've done that for like going on 40 years. Notice I said done. I'm going to get to that in a moment. It was interesting too, because when we shot the interview, I remember saying that, how much longer I want to do this. Like, I enjoy it. I've always done erotic massage, but happy ending. I've always been honest about that. But I also knew, and I said during that interview, I'm going to reach a point where I'm not going to want to do it anymore. Not because I don't love it, because I actually do. But, like any other thing in life, when you do something for X amount of years, you reach a point where like you not that it's run its course, but yeah, kind of. Then I was also thinking, I don't want to be one of these old hoes that's 900 years old and still they kind of make a living at that. So I thought I'd rather leave at the top of my game, where like I can still do it, where like I'm still desirable, but my desires to do it are going to be different. And then it's funny also because in the last year, as I'm a Pisces, so I've always been a bit indecisive with things. And in the last year, I noticed where situations have happened where the decision is made for me, and it's always the right decision. The logistics work out that before I could even make the decision, something happens. And I'm like, oh, good, that was easy. And I said that in the interview. I said, like, if I was like, let's say if I were to move into a luxury high rise with the doorman building, then I don't know how comfortable I would feel doing this, just because, nosy neighbors, you don't want to do anything to rock the boat. You don't want to like, have raised eyebrows at people. And that's exactly what happened. So since I've been living here, which has been basically mid-March, but like I moved and then went away for a week. So basically we're going to say April 1st, I stopped doing it, which I never thought that I would hear myself say that, but I'm no longer doing massage. So there you have it. And I'm good with it. I'm actually ecstatic about the decision. But, it does kind of make you think about things, because like, for so many years, like I was defined by this, and not defined by, but it was such a major part of my life. Or even like when I worked in retail for 25 years, I stopped doing that in 2017. So that's already been 7 going on 8 years. And, that was such a wonderful part of my life, but I'm glad that I stopped doing that. But, the 3 big things in my life, my acting career, my massage work, and my my retail world, two of the three are no longer part of my life. And, now that I'm basically 60, it makes you think, wow, things that I did that were in my everyday life, two of the three are no longer. So then, but I'm seizing this opportunity as a chance to like reinvent myself or finally focus on my acting career. Because I remember when I stopped doing retail, I said I need to focus on my massage work and my acting work. And that's what I've done. And I actually have been more successful just doing those, getting rid of retail. So now, instead of freaking out, it's just an adjustment, it's evolution, it's my evolution, it's what I need to do and want to do. So this will enable me to focus on that. And that's why doing Nora's show was so wonderful for me, because it put me back on stage, and I got my start doing musical theater and I was a dance major. So being on stage to me was I always had a lot more love for that than the film and TV work. Although I love that as well, and I've had success with that. I love that now I'm able to be back on stage, and it just makes me want to do it that much more. So I'm not afraid of that. And the getting back to the Matt Cullen interview, that actually then hit like in March. So it was like Nora's show, moving here, his interview hitting, and then, made my book sales go up. On my social media platforms, my numbers went up, and people were really quite wonderful. Like the response that I got from it, strangers. And Matt himself even said to me, like within the first 4 hours that it hit on that particular Sunday, he was like, this is the most watched views I've ever had in any video. Like I even surpassed some of these queens from RuPaul's Drag Race. And I think I still may be his #1 most views, which I'm proud of that. And to the point that he's going to be back in New York, because he lives in the West Coast, and said, we have to do a part 2. His response was such that people were like, we need to hear more. We love him, and so that was kind of wonderful for me. And of course, there was that small percentage of people who were like saying shit like, oh, he's done Botox, he's had facelifts. No, I've not. This is natural. I have an aversion to needles. Plastic surgery, great. I'm sure I may come to a point where I want to, but I'm not at that point yet. But, there were a tiny percentage of haters, but then what was even lovely about that was the 95% that were not immediately defended me, and they were kind of reading the individuals that said that. So I chimed in here and there, but I was like, you know what? Keep talking shit, because that's just going to give us more views. That's going to give me more subscribers. So it was all a win-win situation. And then last but not least, I guess the other big thing that happened was I ended up getting COVID again for the 3rd time at the beginning of July. Gotten it the last 3 summers, like at the beginning of the summer, and then I've suffered because then I become heat sensitive, so the humidity and heat killed me. But I would be feeling fine other than that particular thing. But this time around, I did end up like I was negative, and yeah, the heat and humidity was a bit much, but there were other things that I was feeling, like joint pain and just exhausted. And I was like, what is wrong with me? And then my PCP mentioned to me, you're suffering from long COVID, which I had heard that. Like I heard the term, but I didn't really know what it meant. But then when he said, well, what are the symptoms? And when I told him what they were, he was like, bingo. And so it was not an easy summer for me. And even like the first few months that I lived here, just getting everything situated. And, there's always kind of growing pains. And I'm not going to get into the logistics, but there were, I kept having to put out little fires. And then finally, like when everything was settled, I was like, oh, great, I can breathe. And then suddenly I was like, how come I can't breathe? COVID. And then the saving grace for me was I went to Europe for 2 weeks in September. I went to London for a week and Spain for a week with one of my besties, Bunnies. Hey, Bunnies! And being in Sitges, Spain, by the beach, that's what did me wonders. And then I came back and I'm like, okay, I'm back on track. Then we did Nora's show again. And now here it is. The year is coming to an end. Today is actually Sunday, December, what did I say? 22nd. So this will air on this Friday coming up. So, but yeah, it's been quite the year. All positive things. Couple of other little things that maybe were not so great, or like the growing pains of everything. However, every morning and every night when I look at my view, because I'm on the 25th floor, I face 9th Avenue, and my view is incredible. That to me supersedes everything. And I think to myself, nothing is bad when you have that to look at. Because I still, like, when I look at my view, or even when I exit the building and I'm in the lobby, because even my lobby is beautiful, I still get emotional. And I'm still like, I can't believe I live here. And P.S., this is the kind of building that you do not move out of. Like, that's why you're on the waiting list for ever 10 years. I know people 16 years, because bitches that move in here, you ain't never leaving unless you die. And that's the only way apartments become available. And then you're on this waiting list. So, your number goes up, up, up. And then suddenly 15 years later, you get a phone call. So, anywho, life is great. And I always say things happen the way they're supposed to. And even if things seem to not be so great, or you have moments that might be downs versus ups, there's if it happened, it's supposed to happen. And if you look at life that way, then really nothing is bad, because everything is a learning experience, and it makes you a stronger, better person for having experienced it. And that's what I'd like to think I am now. And I'm excited about the future. I'm excited for 2025, just because, like, now 2 out of 3 things are not in my life anymore. But I've always been one of these that I like doing multiple things. And I think that's why I've had success in all of them. And that's what's kept me from getting bored with any one of them. But then that, time to exit that particular show. And then that your life is a show, and other things will enter your life. And then you'll be busy again. And excuse me, I think that's what keeps me young at heart, is that I tend to do a lot, and I'm not really one to sit still. So, all right, guys. So, have a happy and healthy New Year, a great holiday season. You'll be seeing this after Christmas. I hope you all had a great Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and all that good stuff. And I love you. And as always, thank you for being here. So now, 2 weeks after this video will be my preview video for 2025. And I'm at the point now where, like, I've done all these 3-part series of, like, every aspect of my life. And before that, I did other things. So I'm really sort of, I don't want to say at a crossroads, but the same way that I'm, like, I said I want to reinvent myself, or think about, like, what I want to do now, or add to what I'm already doing. I'm kind of at that point with this channel where I'm like, oh shit, I've kind of gone through everything that, how could I put it? Anything that's a part of my life that I could do a series on, that was the last 2 years. So I'm excited. I'm not afraid. I'm excited that I get to be creative and think, what do I want to do next with this channel? And the only thing I could think is, whatever I come up with, it's going to be authentic, and I'm going to love it. And I'm going to love that hopefully you guys will continue tuning in. So, okay, thumbs up, subscribe if you have not, tell your friends about it. Oh, P.S., last but not least, I will include the link to the video, Matt Cullen's video, but go on YouTube, follow him. His videos are incredible. And then look for my video. The thumbnail, of course, is a picture of me, and it says 60-year-old escort. But I will include the link in the body of this so that you guys could check it out and subscribe to him as well. All right, guys. Love you, and I'll let you know when the part 2 comes out. Okay. Bye.